discussion of issues that are concerned to us. The Voice of Viewpoint slogan is people without a voice cannot be heard. And so as we seek to serve all of San Diego, but in particular San Diego's predominantly African and African American communities, we welcome this opportunity to hear from you if you have a question or a topic or a comment that you want to share with us. We may be reached by phone at 858-251-6111. That's 858-251-6111. Or you may go to godradio1.com in terms of the internet, and we are streaming on the Voice and Viewpoint Facebook as well as our website in here. And so we welcome you. We like to remind you that the Voice of Viewpoint is an adjudicated legal publication covering all of San Diego County, 89 zip codes, 17 cities, unincorporated areas, available in most of our churches on Sunday as a complimentary item, available at newsstands and retail outlets, and all in all, trying to make the word and the issues available to you. I'm joined by Dr. Leonard Thompson, our host and good friend with us.
And Dr. Warren, thank you so much. We're going to ask that you kind of angle your mic up so that like this, so that they can hear you. There you go.
Okay. There
Yes,
we
yes, yeah. We want to make sure we get you all the way into the mic. Good evening to everybody. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This is godradio1.com from the desk of the editor. We are preparing for so much that is going around the world. Dr. Warren, I tell you, every day that we get up, there's a new headline. They say that the inflation is stable and is going down, and they're talking about leaving interest rates alone, maybe even lower interest rate. There's just a lot going on that seems to be designed to destabilize our economy and the system that we know as the United States of America. What's your thoughts on it?
Well, not only that, but I think one of the greatest things is that the people who are supposed to have taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution and be about the business of governance here, these are some of the very people trying to destroy this institution that we have, this democratic process. And so, yeah, we have that to deal with. Just here locally in the past 24 hours, we've had a string of some 11 or 12 uh, robberies. That's going on. The weather is changing. We have people who are unsheltered outside. We have construction underway in terms of housing, but the number of people who are unsheltered is going up. And with all of the money being pumped into the whole concept of homelessness, we still, even though we had the Tenant Protection Act, we still have one area that we haven't done anything about, and that's putting a freeze on landlords' ability to evict people and raise rents and drive people to homelessness in terms of what it costs to live in San Diego. And so we're in a very difficult situation. Uh, we have people who are unemployed at the same time that statistics talk about unemployment being at an all-time low. But many people are working 2 and 3 jobs just to try to mark time, and the salaries are not what they need to be commensurate with what the rents are. The cost of food is up some 17%, I guess, over a year ago, and wages increases have not been as meaningful. Um, it costs you at least $5,000 just to change apartments if you're a renter, and if you're talking about buying a home, you can forget that because between the 8% interest rate that's jumped up from the 3% it was before the pandemic, and the banks tightening up who and how they will lend money, we have a whole generation of young people who probably will not ever be homeowners. And so there's a great deal going on, and we have elections coming up, both in terms of immediate elections and uh, filling the fourth district city council seat. Then we have the scheduled elections for districts 1, 2, 5, 7, and 9, since they're off-year rotations with our nine-member city council, and we have the state assembly and the state senate and the governor and president and members of Congress and all these people. We have folks running for office who've never run before. We have people making decisions based on friendship, and so I invite all of you, if you get a chance, it'll be online tomorrow. Read this week's editorial I have in the Voice of Viewpoint. and online. It's called Politics, Choices, and Consequences. Politics, Choices, and Consequences. And it'll be a real eye opener in terms of the political process and an opportunity to gauge where you are.
Yes, and one of the things about it is that what we found that has been really just difficult, especially in California, is the whole thing of you know everybody wants to vote for a celebrity. And so a lot of the ways that they go, like when they voted for Arnold Schwarzenegger because they thought he was going to be the Terminator. And then they voted for Ronald Reagan because they thought he was going to be, Wild Bill Big Cops, if you will.
Great communicator, they call
Yeah.
him. Yes.
So, it's important that we move beyond just popularity. It's important that we move beyond, who has, the right haircut and everything else of that nature, and get down to the basics. Who's going to be the best player to put on the field in this time in this season? I'm concerned, and, I just want to start off with national politics. I'm concerned that they're going to let ageism affect the election for Joe Biden.
Well, ageism is a cover card for the real issue. The real issue is not Joe Biden. The real issue is the fear that Joe Biden might die in office and Kamala Harris become president. And that's the real fear, that, we can't have two black presidents. That's just too much, even though Biden's health is good. I would rather have ailing Biden than a pretend to be well Trump. And the real issue in this is that Donald Trump has told everybody who he is. He's shown them. As Maya Angelou says, when somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them. He's got 91 felonies against him, and yet the people running for office on the Republican platform are afraid to speak out against him. We got people that are going to vote for him, black, white, and otherwise, who have drank the Kool-Aid. And we have people right now, one of the biggest threats to us is what's about to happen with Ukraine, between Ukraine and Israel. Ukraine, if we stop supporting Ukraine, Putin wins. And we know Trump is a fan of Putin. And if Putin wins in Ukraine, then it's going to be a domino. We already see it coming. Iran, China and Russia, all of these people will feel that they are empowered, and then we will be in a position of trying to defend ourselves with allies pulling away from us because we pulled away from them. And the moment that Putin attacks a NATO member under the articles of the North American Treaty Organization, everybody has to get involved to defend. So we have real issues. America's relationship, for the first time, I guess, in history, is at a very tedious point with Israel, because even today, the United Nations voted for a ceasefire. America has vetoed in the past, and here we stand now with a Netanyahu who's made it very clear that what he's doing is nothing short of genocide. He wants to say we want to make sure Hamas is never a threat again. But already they're killing children at such a rate that a future population of Palestinians will not exist. And the people that live there, some 2 million people living in 20 square miles, have been pushed back to less than 2 miles now in terms of the 1.8 million that might be remaining, and people are still being killed. So we have very serious world issues. Locally, we have a major issue in terms of the border. As Wells, the governor, the mayor of El Cajon pointed out this week, we've had over 50,000 migrants just flooding across our borders, with a Republican administration holding up Congress, not wanting to act in the Senate, and people just coming. We can't close the floodgate. And so we got monies that will address that problem, Ukraine and Israel, and yet the Republicans won't let us even come together and have a discussion, and they're going to be leaving by the end of the week. They're going to be leaving for their Christmas recess, and if Ukraine doesn't get help by December 31st, the situation is going to really turn in a worse direction. We're not just helping Ukraine. Helping Ukraine is we're delaying that war coming to our own doorstep. And so we've got people who, although they have taken oaths, they don't care. They're trying to impeach the president, but they don't have any grounds, but they're going to start the process and look for grounds. That's like putting a rope around a person's neck, saying we're gonna hang you, but we're gonna put the rope there and put you on the gallows and hold on to the handle while we try to figure out what we're gonna hang you for.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of these things are serious, and in the midst of it, I think one of the big challenges is that African Americans need to get off their behinds, get registered, start voting, get involved, pay attention to the issues, stop playing friendship with the votes, and be serious about who's going to do the most to help us in the problems that we're in.
Well, the reality is simply this: is that I went to a meeting today, just to find out more about how to apply for RFPs with the city and how they do their selection and all the things. And there are so many variables to politics, and there's so many twists and turns, and that you're going to have to study, you're going to have to read, you're going to have to get involved. Ask the question, especially in the District 4, where we have the Live Well Center, and they build the Live Well Center. They're building multiple apartment complexes in that same area, but they narrow the roads. Now, what part of planning, city planning, is that? Where do we need to go? Why is this happening? It makes no sense. And then they're giving the builders a break where they don't have to have parking spaces. So they build housing, but then there's no place to park them. So now we impact full neighborhoods, and then people are at risk of being attacked because they have to walk so far away from their homes to find parking. And so there's just all these different things that are taking place. And I look at the navigation. How do we navigate it unless we read? How do we navigate it unless we educate ourselves and literally make it essential? And then, sad thing about it is that we see the fire sale that's taken place over in D4 with the Jacobs property and everything else. Mysteriously, I don't know if you heard, but mysteriously, on last night, the church's chicken caught on fire. And my question is it still under? Does it still got insurance on it? And is that another way until they sell the property that they can still pull money?
Yeah, that's a removal. Well, the Church's Chicken was a failure from the beginning. It shouldn't have been there. And Jacobs impacted us in many ways because they bought up all of the vacant land in the community and then land banked it so nobody could afford to buy anything. Yeah. 25 years ago, we wanted to buy that hill that they're working on now. Yeah. And we ran into all kind of resistance, and the cost of the hill wasn't that great. Yeah. The problem with the hill was the excavation that was going to make it necessary to level it so you could use it. Yeah. And we couldn't get anybody to even talk to us about doing it. All these things now, many of the properties we could have bought for $100,000 or less 25 years ago, and no one would help us. But Jacobs came in right there where Market Creek is. There had been an old laundry owned by some people in Canada that sat there forever.
Ever.
Okay, and no one would do anything. And they come, they buy it all. They were supposed to put a Denny's in down there at 47th and Market, right there where the Family Health Center is. Yep. Nobody would come do it. And so, and part of the problem is the community, because the community has such a short attention span. That's my biggest concern, that people know we have a short attention span. They know who can be bought and how to buy them, and they know that we're not going to stand up and fight or vote beyond our own personal interests.
Well, the funny thing about it, and I want to go back to Church's Chicken. Church's Chicken on that corner was thriving. I mean, everybody was going to, after church, going to get Church's Chicken. You know what killed Church's Chicken?
What?
Was that report when they said that Church's Chicken was putting stuff in that was causing sterilization in African American men. And all of a sudden, that story went out on 60 Minutes and everything else, and literally Church's Chicken was doomed because black folks said, nope, we not eating there no more. But before then, people were packing that place out, just to go get the little honey biscuits.
Well, I never went to Church's because I never liked it. I tried the chicken once, and I didn't care for it whatsoever. But, they did the same thing to Wendy's when they found the finger supposedly in the chili.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and they
so
did the same thing with Jack in the Box with the kangaroo meat.
yeah, so it's
Yeah,
all and all these things are ongoing.
yeah.
But here we are now at a crossroads again here in this community with an opportunity to make a difference. And as usual, we got people split up all over. I want to say a word. Last week we ran an article about a certain person in the community running for mayor. And before the article even appeared online, the individual was on social media speaking out against pastors, black pastors, and the black press, which I thought was very interesting. And so then uh, this article was put up on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Now, I owe an apology in terms of what happened with the Instagram posting. For some reason, somehow, my social person posting ended up posting an ad that came from the police, uh, uh, the POA, Officers Association, when they were attacking Monica Montgomery during the supervisorial race. That ad had nothing to do with being online. I think it got there because of some comments that were made by the people who were offended before they read the article, making reference to attacks on black women. And because that was seen as an attack on black women, someone made the decision to run it. And when I found out about it, I was very disturbed because I don't need to run somebody else's propaganda to make any points that we make with the paper. I stand behind what we write. I stand behind the article. I think it was balanced. There are going to be a whole bunch of articles coming up in the future that people are not going to like, but it's not my job to write what you like. It's my job to print the facts, and if you have a different set of facts or an opinion, if you give it to her, we'll print that too. We don't engage in censorship. The problem is most of us want to have oral discussion, but we don't want to write. We don't want to sit down and read and give the time and attention to the issues that other people do, and that's why they're getting more results than we get.
Well, Dr. Warren, I would say that sometimes it's easier to go to social media because it gives you the instant gratification. But I think that what we want to say moving forth, and this is not only local elections, but state and national elections, is that we have to really be engaged, and it's not going to be about, who's the most popular, who's going to be the strongest, and everything else of that nature. We just have to look at the evidence. When I look at the national election, Trump is still doing extremely well with his supporters. And the sad thing about it is he is basically snubbing his nose at the whole entire process. He is not playing with the process. He's just doing his own thing. And no one's holding him accountable. The Republican Party is not holding him accountable.
Scared of it.
And and I have to say, he reminds me of Suge Knight. Everybody in the hip hop industry seemed to be afraid of Suge Knight, but ultimately, when he stepped on the wrong toes, he found himself in jail for life. And I believe that all they got to do is Donald Trump got to step on the right toes, and all of a sudden, everything that he thinks he's in control of will come tumbling down. And the sad thing about it is, and even then, while he would be looking out from a jail cell, he'll be able to say, I still won the election.
Well, they would swear him in an orange jumpsuit if they could, as they're already having discussions as to whether or not the president can pardon himself, which is just totally ridiculous based on our system of government that's always under attack. And why? Because the little people, are growing in numbers. The country is browning in its appearance. And the good old boys are scared as hell that they are no longer be able to influence. So what they do is they want to throw out the process. They want the government to collapse. If you listen to some of them, they want an armed confrontation in this country. And who are they fighting against? Surely the people, black and brown, are not running around banishing guns as the Panthers did years ago. So clearly you want to kill those who you think will be a threat to what you want, because you want the good old days that are gone, and they're not going to come back.
Well, you have to give, I give them credit. They will shoot, kill, and and blaspheme anybody who does not believe who as they believe. You know,
True.
we saw that with Donald Trump. We saw that with the good old boy system. And the question comes in now is that we can see the issues and the problems. We have to now determine, will we be a part of the solutions? And it's not just, you know, what I would say moving forth is simply this: everybody must be engaged again, even from the church house to the doghouse. Everybody needs to be engaged and have real conversations about how do we move our community forward. And the bottom line is that the first thing that I got to do is, can I trust you to keep your word? Because see, here's the issue with everything, Dr. Warren, is that you don't have to agree with me. We're not going to always see eye to eye, but can I trust you to keep your word? Meaning that if you tell me one thing, I can walk with that and stand on that versus something else. Now, anybody who gets in office, I don't care how savvy you are, you're going to still have to reach across the aisle to people that don't believe the same thing as you do, and you have to give some concessions to get some. You know what I'm saying? But to be honest, to come back and say, look, did the best that I could. I knew we needed this. So just like in trading in sports, we needed a good pitcher, so I had to give up this catcher to get this pitcher. That's what is always going to be like in politics. But I believe that when you build a solid core, people are willing to work with you because your core is just not simply focused on us four and no more, but you're focusing on us four and every more,
Yes.
and we're going to work collectively.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right, Dr. Thompson. And somehow, you know, history has shown that people only wake up and get involved when they feel personally threatened.
Yes.
And a lot of us don't feel threatened enough at this point, even though we see threats all around us to our lifestyle, to our family and friends. Most of us have become so individualistic that we don't respond until it's knocking at our door.
And you know, that's the funny thing about it is that I believe that there's so much distraction taking place in our society today that we almost don't realize that we're at a war. We are in a threatening situation because we're so distracted. It's almost like, you know, somebody that you about ready to like they say, you get ready to go kill the cow. You know what I'm saying? You don't walk straight up to the cow with the knife and let the cow see the knife. You know, the more humane way is that you send the cow, give him some good food, and cow minding his own business, all of a sudden, boom, you know, you got me. You know what I'm saying? And they said that if there's less trauma to the animal, there's less toxins that go out into the meat. And so the reality comes in is that I think that we have all these diversions. You know, and that's what I want to say with Donald Trump. Donald Trump creates diversions. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing, even with Rudy Giuliani, you know, his diversion, he can't create enough diversions, and they keep on saying to him, but can you afford to pay? Are you going to be able to pay? Because basically he done lost.
Well, he knows he has no money
Yeah.
and he can't pay. But my concern is that too few of us, I mean, we look at the national thing, but we're not paying attention to what's happening locally.
Yeah.
We're not paying attention to who's stepping up, who's trying to run, who's trying to influence who runs. I give you an example with the 4th District race. And this is you know, many years ago, I was a political scientist before I was a publisher or lawyer. Now, if you have a race, and I was a victim of this when I ran for the state senate here, I was in a race that was one-on-one between myself and Steve Peace, who was an assembly member running for the Senate seat that, you know, Waddy Detta thought he could just hand over and give to him. Now, the system couldn't let that happen because I owned the paper and there was a chance that Peace could lose. So what did Detta do? He went to a certain pastor in this community, got that pastor to pick someone to run, had this black woman put her hat in the race, and the whole purpose of her being there was to say that if there are any black votes that we can pull from John Warren to her, it makes Steve's chances better. If there's a forerunner coming up for the 4th District that certain people don't want, and they want to make sure that this person does not get 51% of the vote coming out the gate, then what do? we get a lot of people to sign up to get on the ballot because the more people that are on the ballot, the more the vote will be diluted, the greater the chances that after the March primary, we're going to have to go into a runoff election. And those who did not want a certain person think that this will give them better and more time to strategize for theirs. So we have to almost become chess players in this thing and pay attention to the big picture.
Yeah.
That's why I keep mentioning the state of Georgia. Georgia is so significant that it would elect a Jew and an African American to two of the seats that were held by some of the greatest racists in the history. But the people there stood in line, paid the price, waited to vote because they knew of voter suppression, closing precincts, stopping voting on Sunday, everything they could do to stop it. The people were determined that they weren't going to let it happen. And we need to be that way here. We're not, it doesn't matter that we're only 3 to 6% of the population because every vote can be won by one vote, every election, one vote. But we are not engaging with the concern of the big picture.
Well, and the thing about it is, D4 is one of those districts that has always been a contentious race. It has never been cut and dry, except when George Stevens ran and actually got in space. People knew he was the people's council person. And the thing that I say moving forward, we have to realize that everybody is entitled to run. But even as everybody's entitled to run, I think we have maybe 6 or 7 people in the race at this point. But about 20 people were vetted, to run for D4. You know what I'm saying? There were people that were asked to run and people that were sought after to run. But ultimately, it takes more than just the notion of running, and it takes more. It's almost like this, and I say this to people. Lots of people, we have a lot of preachers, but very few pastors.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Pastors is definitely a calling. And so I tell people, don't be so quick to rush out to become a pastor because understand that is a calling that you have to be prepared to sacrifice because with pastorship comes sacrifice of time and energy
Right.
and privacy, but also as a shepherd, you are to protect the sheep. You're supposed to nurture the sheep. And just like when you go into politics, especially in a district that is impoverished, that is not doing like all the other districts are doing, and it's a changing district and a changing demographic, you have to really want to do leadership because you literally will sacrifice years of your life serving the people. And that's what it's more about, is the service. It's not about the power. It's about the ability to influence to serve the greater good of the body. And that is the focus. And the agenda items that have to take place, like I said, they've been trying to get a Denny's in this community since I've been a kid. And I just want to know, personally, maybe it's not the politician that can get the Denny's in. Maybe it needs to be us business people that call Denny's up and say, look, either we get a Denny's or we're going to stop going to all the Denny's.
Well, they know that'll never happen because we don't have that kind of collective loyalty. Mm-hmm. Okay, the Asian community does, the Latino community does, the Jewish community does, the Arab community does, but we're the one community that are not going to pull together collectively like what happened in Birmingham, Alabama, when the people did that boycott, leading to opening the buses up and going 2.5 years or whatever it was without losing jobs and what meager income they had just to make a statement. We don't have that kind of loyalty today.
And that is the thing that and I'm just an optimist. I just have faith that we can turn it around. I have faith that with this generation that is coming up and with the generation that even we have, I have faith that if we continue to give good information and challenge us to think outside the box and really help people to understand that it's not a time to be quiet. It's not a time to be quiet. And here's the thing. It is a time that we got to get, our skins have to be tougher. We got to have more thick skin because I had to say it, but so many people get offended so easily. And then when the offense takes place, they want to take their toys and go home.
Always.
And my whole thing is, let's stop being offended with each other. You know, the Bible says if you got an offense or out against your brother or sister, go to them. If they don't receive it, you know, go get the elders of the church or the elders of the community, you know, and go to them and have real conversation. But the reality comes in is in real conversations can hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it makes you look at yourself and you got to say either I have it or I don't have it. You know what I'm saying? And I remember as a young man, you know, I remember being told, you know, you ain't gonna never, and you two this and you two that.
Yeah.
And I was offended.
Right.
But my response was, okay, thank you. And what I don't know, could you teach me?
Yeah.
And it caught them so off guard because they wanted a certain response.
Yeah, so they could keep the war going.
Exactly.
They
So I
didn't
tell
wanna
people,
teach.
I tell people all the time, you can't fight with me if I'm not fighting with you. All you do is swing that air because I'm dodging and moving.
Well, I think it's also right, Dr. Thompson, and I'd like to take this opportunity to remind those who are listening that you may reach us at 858-251-6111 if you choose to call in, or you may go to godradio1.com and the internet, and we are streaming, and we do have this open mic, and we're discussing the issues that we've seen and are dealing with, and we certainly welcome the chance to hear from you if you have an idea or comment.
Yeah, and you know the reality is that you know we go from national politics to state politics to local politics, and you know really as a country, it is a very sticky wicket at this point. You know, we have the House being run by folks that you know their main focus is abortion. You know what I'm saying, and we have the Supreme Court that is making decisions that not are always conducive to people of color. You know what I'm saying? We have major international things taking place,
Yep.
and we have pettiness in our governing bodies that will leave us at more risk than if we would act and be supportive. So I just want to help people to understand that, you know, it's okay to look at the news and to do the reading, but make sure you're doing your research. We are in a tough spot now, and we're starting to be surrounded by different wars. Venezuela is now trying to get the oil wells from Ghana, you know, and Venezuela's like saying it's ours, and Ghana saying nope, it's ours, and the Ghanaians is saying, look, you come over here, you're going to get something. And the Venezuela said, we bigger and better. So there are, you know, in the last days, it said it's going to be wars and rumors of wars.
Yes.
But the stage can be being set for the Antichrist, and y'all don't even know that y'all entertaining the Antichrist because y'all haven't read and you are not studying and you're not seeking God on this time.
It's so true, Dr. Thompson. So very true.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we're moving into this holiday season here. We got a lot of events coming up this weekend, toy drives, giveaways, so many places that families can go out and prepare for the holiday. This always happens at least 2 weeks before Christmas each year. And so we know some of the events that are taking place. On Friday, we have the Christmas senior dinner at the George Stevens Senior Center. On Saturday morning, we have Reaves Across America at the what's the cemetery?
Greenwood.
Greenwood, at Greenwood. Okay, and then we also have a big toy giveaway at the YMCA, and then we have
The Blue Heart.
the Blue Heart going
Breakfast, yeah.
at Jacob Center. And we have a joint thing taking place at the St. Stephen's Church at 9 o'clock. Larry Price and many people there giving all kinds of gifts and toys out to the kids. So there's a lot happening Saturday in terms of these activities that are taking place.
Yes.
And then, of course, on Sunday we have two very significant things. We have a fundraiser at UDW for Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is running to be the second black woman from the state of California in the U.S. Senate, running for the seat vacated by Dianne Feinstein's death. The sister that took the seat made it clear that she was not going to run, which opened it up for Barbara, and she has improved in her poll numbers over Adam Schiff and other people running against her. And so then Sunday evening at 4 at Liberty Station, again, Larry Price's group will be hosting ice skating party, which they've done every year going back to when the first rink was established down at Horton Plaza
Okay.
years ago. Now there are ice skating rinks all over San Diego all of a sudden. You know, we had the year-round one at the Joan Kroc Center on University. We had the center next at Viejas. They have the big ice skating rink there. And just a couple of weeks ago, they opened one in Julian at the Farmers Market, which is ice skating they're offering. And then there's ice skating at Liberty Station. And we have a roller rink that's open over on Federal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got
It's
activities.
outdoors too.
Yeah, it's an outdoors rink, and we got these things taking place. And the days have changed that we remember, Dr. Thompson, when it wasn't much, and a lot of people, you couldn't have but so many events because everybody knew
Yeah.
who was doing what.
Yeah. And I want to send a shout out to the SDSU Diamonds, their majorette team. Their fundraiser is the Nutcracker. They're doing a Nutcracker from a majorette and dancing majorette theme. And what I love about them is not are they just using the girls from San Diego State, but they're using kids and teens from all over our community. So it's going to be a really beautiful thing. It's going to be at Aztec Center or Aztec Montezuma Hall. And we had them on the radio this morning. And when I tell you, very poised young ladies, or yesterday morning, very poised, very visionary, and very academically sound. And I love that because, you know, sometimes people start stuff and they want people to believe that it's all about them and they were the first to do it and everything like that.
Right.
First thing they start off is with history. Where did it all start? Why did it start? What was it about? So they're educating on the history about the HBCUs and where it came from and why they're bringing it here. And everybody thought that FAMU was the beginning of the majorette style dance teams, but they said it was actually between Arkhorn and Jackson State. And they said, because they both started in the same year, the question is who started it first. So Jackson State right now, they say we the ones. Alcorn said we the ones. But the bottom line is the fact that there's two schools that will get the credit for being the originators of the majorette style dancing. And to let the young people know that you can still do this, still get a good education. One of the young ladies, or two of the young ladies that we interviewed, said their major was communication. I said, oh, y'all need internships, call me. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause we got opportunities for you.
Right.
And so we're very excited. So that's happening on Saturday evening at 5, also at Montezuma Hall. We're going to go out and support that too.
Okay. And we're here to share and make the community aware. In the next 2 weeks, there are even more activities coming online. I want to encourage members of our community, and African Americans in particular, to not be afraid to take advantage of some of these gatherings and toy giveaways. Each year that I've covered these events for the past 25 years or so, I'm always puzzled at the small number of African American families participating in the giveaways.
Yeah.
Okay, and while other communities, people are not ashamed to go there to get in line to get the benefits, the toys and things for their kids. One year we did a giveaway at Eagles Nest and the Voice of Viewpoint, and we had people a block away from the building, and very few, if any, of us actually participating. All the other communities came out and took advantage of all the gifts and bicycles and everything, and Santa being, but we didn't do that.
Yeah.
And so we want to, let's not rob our kids based on some of the false pride that a lot of us have. These are difficult times, and there's nothing wrong with accepting help when you need it.
And, you know, one of the things about it, too, is even with our granddaughter, one of the things that my wife has done consistently is she will go and have my granddaughter pick out toys specifically to give away,
Okay.
to be a blessing to somebody else. For those of us that are doing well or are in a blessed opportunity, and I say this even sometimes, even when you are not at the point of overflow, but you want to be in overflow, is more blessed to give than to receive. And sometimes when you step out on faith and get something to give to somebody else, God will honor that because you're giving from your least amount versus your overflow.
It's written in Luke 6:38. Give and it shall be given unto you. Good measure pressed down, shaking together, running over. Will he cause what? Men to give to
Yeah.
our bosom. And
Yeah.
so we need to be about that, Old Testament, Malachi 3:10.
Right.
Prove me now. If I want to open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing, you want to have room
Mhm.
for. A lot of us have gotten away from believing the strength of those scriptures, but there's such a joy in giving and helping others. And once you get the hang of it, you don't want to stop doing it. So
Yeah.
we want to encourage people. It's no accident in terms of what happens at this time of the year. I always remind people when you think about Christmas that Jesus was not really born in December,
Yeah.
but it's the time we set aside to honor him. And so God has honored the time that we selected, because what it's all about is John 3:16. He so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And so what do we see at Christmas time? The spirit of love permeates, the spirit of giving takes over. And that spirit is good right up until Christmas Day.
Amen.
And then it's gone. Okay, and people are left with all these credit card charges and trying to
Yeah.
catch up with Kwanzaa. But it's the only time. Just think about it. Christmas. No matter what your faith or denomination, there's no other day in the year that every business virtually closes.
Yeah.
Every business, and that's phenomenal in and of itself.
Yes, and one of the things about it, we definitely don't want to forget the reason for the season and the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ. It's not about the toys, it's not about the trees. It is about our Lord and Savior symbolically being brought into this earth to save this world. And one of the things about it is, as you get older, and even where I look at my granddaughter, you know, as you get older, you get wiser about how you go about it. I see you, Rita. She says 7-Eleven's open. Yeah, 7-Eleven is definitely open. Thank God for 7-Eleven. Get those last minute batteries that you
Yeah.
forgot to pick up.
Right.
But I think it's so important that we get back to helping our children understand the reason for the season, and also for us to get back as family. Get back as family and really, really, really learn to get back to love, loving self, loving our community. And that's why I still have hope that in this time, in this season, I believe that God is raising up people that still are saying we can buy back the block one block at a time. I believe that we can go forth and agree to disagree. My favorite relationships are when I have a big fight with somebody, and after we done had a big fight and fussed at each other and everything else, we say, "You want to go get some coffee?" Or because see, that lets us know that it's not personal. It is about issues, and we're on different sides of the fence, but it's not personal. And I think that we are personally engaged in seeing our communities, our churches, our families do well, but we don't have to be, for lack of better words, vindictive when people disagree.
Well, as a part of the mission statement of Black Men and Women United, where we say in that statement that we agree to disagree in brotherly love,
Yeah.
so that we can move forward. And so that's been one of the hindrances in our community, because we disagree, and we make it the center of everything. We become one issue people instead of understanding that there are a lot of other things on the table, and let's look at what we can agree on.
Well, Dr. Warren, I'll tell you, I learned the lesson one time when I had a major consultancy contract and with a company that did not look like me. And I was excited about the contract, and I walked in on the day, and I was suit and tie, briefcase, looked like $1 million, right? I'm getting ready to do this big consultancy and build the brand, right? I walked in there, and I see these two Caucasian gentlemen fisticuffing. I mean, fighting, turning over tables, breaking stuff, and everybody's standing around watching. And I wanted to jump in to stop them from fighting because I didn't know why they was fighting. And the secretary said, hold on, don't get in that. That's between them two. And I said, what do you mean? They said he said we just found out, or he just found out that his partner was sleeping with his wife. And I said, oh my. So from my mindset as an African American male and know how we think in our community, this company's done over with. They're gonna have to shut the doors. So I grabbed my briefcase and I got my car. I said, well, that contract is over, and I came home. Well, a day later, I get a phone call from these guys who just was beating each other up, and they said they were upset. We hired you to do a job, and you have not been in. And I said, well, I did come in, and y'all was fighting. They said, well, you need to come in because we got work to do. I walk in, and the one dude had a broken nose. The other one's hand was in a sling, and they were sitting on opposite ends of the table. And they said, well, what's the issue? I said, when I walked in and y'all were fighting, I figured that this was the end of the company. And the man looked at me and he said, look, I can get another wife, but I'm not going to let it hurt my bottom line. and it was amazing to me. And this company is still a thriving multi-million-dollar company to this very day with the same two guys that were beating up on each other there, different wives. Yeah. But it was just amazing how even in the midst of that turmoil, they were not going to stop the vision of what they had built. And that's the thing I think that we have to get to with our community. Even when we hit turmoil and rocky times and we disagree, we can't lose sight of the vision of why we got here and how we're going to help our people.
No, you're absolutely right, Dr. Thompson. And we hope as we go through these efforts like this program, Black Men and Women United, Biscuit Grits, podcast, town hall meetings, all of the discussion groups we try to generate to bring people together to talk about issues. We're hoping that, and we know that some are listening because we see the results of some of the people who are listening. And so we don't give up, we keep going. Dr. Thompson, you and I have been doing this for probably more than 3 decades. And there have been times that we've been very frustrated and very tired. And it might have seemed hopeless, but it never reached a point where we were going to quit doing what we do.
And I always laugh because I go back to the Gold Coast Classic, and we were, first time going out with some of the stuff, and we were learning as we were going. But even in the height of anxiousness and everything else of that nature, we kept pressing through. And I had to say, the very first time that I ever was in a skybox at the game was at the Gold Coast Classic with you. We had made it through, and we were now at the big game, and we still had more to do. And the one thing that we learned is that even when things don't go according to plan, we press through and we finish the course. And I think that is what we want to make sure that we emphasize. Yeah. Even when it doesn't go according to plan, we have to press through for our community so that we can see the results.
Hebrews speaks of pressing on to the most high calling and not giving up. Yeah. And the scripture talks about not being weary and well doing. If you can get weary and well doing, you're gonna really be in trouble. Exactly. When times get trouble, Yeah. And Jeremiah puts it this way. He says, if you can't keep up with the footmen, what are you going to do when the horsemen come? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so we take all of those things to heart, and we just keep on. We press on. We keep going. Yeah. We keep talking to people and pointing out things and knowing that if it falls on one or two that decide to pick up the gauntlet, then we're still moving forward.
Yeah. And it's amazing what love will do when you have, first of all, love for yourself. Because that gives you the respect also for yourself. When you have love for your family, you have love, so that means that you want to leave a legacy and something good behind. And when you have love for your community and love for God, it allows you to look beyond, how they say, he looked beyond all my faults and saw my needs. It allows you to look beyond the faults of people. People are not going to always say the things the way you want to say it. I always say that. I always used to laugh that sometimes pastors over the pulpit could say some things and they just talking because they talking from an experience, and you will sit back there and say, why are he talking about me? And you'll get all up in your feeling. And many times the pastors don't know nothing about what's going on. They just giving you what God gave them,
Right.
and you got into your feelings instead of just say, hey, you know what, say, if it hits you, say ouch, fix it and go on. But don't and personalize, I ain't coming back. Because that's when we lose our best. When we get frustrated, we take our toys and go home, and then before we know it, nobody's playing with nobody.
That's true. That's true. And so this has been an important, we keep having these discussions and we keep opening the mic. Some people say that they don't want to call in because they enjoy listening, and we don't mind that. But we just want to not lose our focus as we move through this period, move into this holiday. Let's remain grateful and thankful for who we are and what we have. Thankful that you have a key that fits a door, that you can hit a switch and turn on lights, that you can go to a faucet or flush a toilet or take a shower or lay down under covers and not be exposed to the element. All these things we take for granted, and yet we see there are so many people in the world today, and we can look beyond Hamas and the Gaza Strip to all of the folks that were parked at our border and on our streets, and the tents downtown, and all of these places where people have hardships. We can't save everybody. We can't help everybody. But if we can do as the song says, if I can help somebody, then my living will not be in vain.
Yeah.
And so when we take that attitude in the true sense of the believer, true sense of believing in Christ and what he stood for, then we will have good works, because I believe very strongly that there are no bad days above ground.
Yes, and this one, let everybody know as we end off the show this evening. Next Wednesday we will have city manager.
The city manager.
Yeah.
Eric Dawson.
Dargan.
Darkins.
Yes.
Eric Darkins will be with us.
And so get your questions ready. You can send it to us in advance. We want to have a good conversation. Number 2 in charge is going to be up in here, and so.
And he's the one that's really responsible for the day-to-day operations. There are 5 divisions of city government under him. Yeah. And so far, people have been giving him a honeymoon. It's time to ask some real hard questions. Yes.
And also be ready to learn and be receptive to hearing everything that is going to go forth. Because we're going to, I call it the hot seat. People come in, but the biggest thing is that we just want to get more and more information out so that we can be more and more engaged. Lastly, Dr. Warren, we want to challenge people. Boards and commission. Get involved. There's one
an opportunity to serve.
Yes. With that being said, this is from the Desk of the Editor with Dr. John Warren. We ask that you all be safe until next week.
Be blessed.
Take care.